another $1 trillion a year on environmental contracts. We saw this little dip when everyone focused on energy, but now everyone's kind of focusing back around and looking at how do we price carbon and how do we hedge our environmental risk. On the next phase, we're starting to look at the voluntary carbon markets and trying to figure out how we can get better pricing in the underlying market for that. So we can build futures contracts and risk transference mechanisms on top of those markets.
What is happening in ICE's oil markets?
It was the most actively traded oil contract week, which is really exciting. We're building out the capability, and we made a bunch of contract specifications to take our HOU contract and align it with global crude oil. What we're seeing is that we have really a change in oil flows. So oil is outflowing from the United States and being shipped around the globe. We need contracts that will reflect that new paradigm for hedgers. The first thing is, and we did this a couple weeks ago, we changed some of the delivery specifications. It sounds like a small thing, but it's actually a huge thing. We have major energy oil storage firms and work with them on the contract specifications because it delivers through their service. And he needs to get two of these major entities to agree with each other. So it's a lot of work that goes into that. At the end of it, you start having a contract that has global significance, which I think is really, really cool to see. And it's one of those things that we get to work on in the futures industry that has they'll have global implications from for the next 20 years. It's really, really neat to see that.
How are customers using ICE's gas oil contract?
That contract was probably the most affected by the war in Ukraine, and because a lot of Russian deliveries were going into gas oil. And but we're seeing this massive uptick, even though we had changed the way that contract worked and take out the Russian involvement there. We're now seeing levels that we haven't seen before the Ukraine war. So customers are starting to look at that and using it more and more as a hedging mechanism. So really, really interesting for us. Huge uptick in our markets.
What is going on across ICE's global gas markets?
TTF is now pricing energy for Europe. It's increasingly becoming this global benchmark for LNG. Europe has changed the way that they consume gas. They're no longer taking gas from Russia. They're taking gas from the United States and shipping it in. So by doing that, it's making TTF the pricing for global LNG. And it's kind of a barometer of European energy prices, but also the European economy. We've been seeing records over the past year for TTF. TTF is becoming more interrelated with Henry Hub. And there, we've also seen records. Even though the price of Henry Hub has been going down, which is great for the U.S. economy, we're starting to see Henry and TTF kind of form together as this global benchmark for waterborne natural gas.
What can you tell us about the problems surrounding cocoa?
I would think it would be the safest thing to do right now is to buy your Halloween candy right now. Don't wait until October. What's happening is it's really interesting. In the Ivory Coast and Ghana, they're probably short cocoa beans, and they're short because there's a disease going through the Ivory Coast and Ghana in their cocoa trees. We don't exactly know the impact of that yet. But what we do know is there's definitely a mismatch, or at least there's a perceived mismatch between the buyers and the people that need to manufacture chocolate bars and the beans that are going to be supplied. So that has caused the market there to be extremely volatile. That'll continue to happen probably throughout the summer as people try to figure out exactly how much cocoa beans are in the Ivory Coast and Ghana, and whether the chocolate manufacturers can cut back on their demand. But if you want the chocolate bar you had last year, probably a good time to buy it right now.
What about coffee beans?
It's now a Niño year, so there's a lot of weather affecting coffee. Not anything like cocoa right now, but we're starting to see shifts in the way that coffee is produced. And this has happened over the past at least 10 or 15 years. We see Vietnam actually becoming a big producer of coffee, especially in Robusta. Brazil, obviously picking up like they do with other coffee products. And If you go into a Starbucks, you no longer see Colombian coffee in there, and you just see coffee. And then one of the reasons is because they're bringing coffee from other countries. Actually makes the market more resilient, in my opinion.
How are the sugar markets doing?
Been somewhat volatile, nothing like cocoa. Overall, sugar is it continues to serve a great price discovery mechanism. It actually sometimes you see it tied to energy because a lot of people use sugar derivatives in energy production. So it's as you see energy go, sometimes you see the sugar go that way.
Is anything going on in the cotton market?
Cotton has been a little bit more quiet, especially compared to the way it was a couple of years ago, where we saw it was really tied to interest rates, and the price of cotton went up very, very quickly as the Fed started raising interest rates. What's happening there in the underlying market is extremely interesting. Is what people are starting to realize is that polyester has microplastics in it. The cotton people tell me that the people are shifting away from polyester, which we all wear in our athletic, shirts and everything like that, back to cotton. So that's going to be an interesting shift for that underlying market.